As one might imagine based on the fact that the whole dang show is named after them, the Dragon Balls are a major part of the Dragon Ball franchise. Heck, even as the series shifted its focus from gathering the magical wishing orbs to martial arts and fighting super powerful aliens and monsters, the Dragon Balls remained a huge part of the story. For this reason, we wanted to chronicle every single wish in the franchise, from the very first underwear wish to the most recent wishes of the Dragon Ball Super Manga. In order to do this and not go on for an hour, we're going to group all the revivals together and condense in some places where necessary. With that out of the way, let's dig into every single wish in the history of Dragon Ball. We're going to be going through all of these wishes in chronological order, but before we get to the first on-screen wish of the series, we have to mention a wish that is said to have been granted prior to the beginning of the series. It's believed that someone once used the Dragon Balls to wish to be the king of the world, uniting it under one rule. Following this, the Dragon Balls weren't used for quite some time, that is until Emperor Pilaf and his cronies somehow managed to gather them all and summon the eternal dragon Shenron. Unfortunately, Pilaf wasn't able to get his wish to rule the world, since he was interrupted by Oolong, whose quick thinking saved the world. How? By stepping in at the last minute and wishing for a pair of women's underwear. Yep, that was the first Dragon Ball wish in the series, Panteu. Fortunately, wishes get much better going forward. Skipping over revivals, since we're grouping them together, the next wish in the timeline of Dragon Ball was made by King Piccolo. After gathering the Dragon Balls, Piccolo wished for his youth back in order to regain his former power. Following this wish, King Piccolo killed Shenron so that his reign could not be challenged. Of course, this wish ended up doing jack squat when it came to Piccolo's plans of ruling the world, since even with his youth restored, he still lost against Kid Goku. In fact, killing Shenron didn't do much either, since after King Piccolo's defeat, Kami was able to restore the dragon's life and magical wishing powers. Despite all the work it took to get the Dragon Balls, and despite having his youth back, King Piccolo's wish ended up being pretty lackluster. When you skip over all the revivals, the timeline of wishes moves pretty quickly, doesn't it? We're already at the Namek Saga of Dragon Ball Z. During this saga, Gohan, Krillin, and eventually Vegeta searched across the alien planet for the Namekian Dragon Balls, which they used to help in the fight against Frieza. After using them to revive Piccolo, the next non-revival wish in the Dragon Ball timeline was to bring Piccolo back to his planet of origin. By wishing Piccolo to be transported to Namek, they wouldn't have to wait for him to travel to the planet, which had already taken Goku a long time. Thus, Porunga teleported Piccolo to Namek, which allowed him to join the fight using the power he gained from training with King Kai and by absorbing Nail to stand a better chance against Frieza. Throughout the Namek Saga, the planet became increasingly more and more dangerous for the inhabitants, eventually becoming a volatile ticking time bomb when Frieza destroyed its core during his fight with Goku. Literally, the planet only had a few minutes before it would explode. Luckily, Shenron back on Earth was at bat, ready to revive everyone killed by Frieza and his goons, which opens up a whole other can of worms that we're not going to get into here. As such, the next Porunga wish in the series was used to solve this problem. Specifically, Dende wished for all the people on planet Namek, save for Goku and Vegeta, to be transported to Earth, taking them away to safety. Once again, this was a great use of a wish, since it allowed Goku and Frieza to continue their fight and got the bystanders out of the way, saving the lives of Gohan, Vegeta, Piccolo, Bulma, and Krillin. Oh no. Speaking of the Namekians, the next wish granted by Porunga after bringing back Krillin, Yamcha, Chaozu, and Tien was to bring them to their new home. With the destruction of Namek after Goku and Frieza's fight, or rather after Frieza acted like a poor sport and gave their fight a ticking clock, the Namekians were left without a home. Eventually, King Kai found a planet with an environment, atmosphere, and resources identical to the original Namek, one the Namekians could move to and claim as their home. Eventually called New Namek, the Namekians used a wish from Porunga to teleport themselves to their new home. Fast forward to the Cell Saga, and the Earth had found a new guardian to replace Kami after he fused with Piccolo. After taking over the position, Dende eventually upgraded Shenron to be able to grant 3 wishes, though it was limited to 2 if one of them was to revive a lot of people at once. This was the case after Cell was defeated, since everyone who was killed by him needed to be brought back, leaving only one wish left, a wish that Krillin wanted to use on androids 17 and 18. Initially, Krillin wanted to turn them back into ordinary humans, but Shenron was unable to do so. So Krillin wished for the next best thing, their freedom. After Goku brought Cell to King Kai's planet to self-destruct, the planet was completely destroyed. However, by the time of the Buu Saga, his planet was back to normal. It was implied that maybe he wished it back, and we got confirmation of this in a bonus chapter of the Dragon Ball Super Manga. In this chapter, King Kai contacted the Grand Elder of the Namekians to use their Dragon Balls, asking Porunga to restore his planet. However, he didn't just want it back to normal. He wanted it bigger, and wanted it to have a big racetrack for his car and all sorts of other add-ons. He almost got these requests for it, not for Goku, who interrupted and asked that the planet be restored to its usual state because its gravity was good for his training. Next up is the Buu Saga, which had a lot of mass resurrections thanks to the titular antagonist as well as Vegeta and his midlife Saiyan pride crisis. Regardless, following the resurrections in this saga, the Dragon Balls were used for another wish, one that more or less served as the final nail in Buu's coffin. See, Goku needed to stop Buu with a spirit bomb, and in order to make one big enough, the Namekian Dragon Balls were used to restore the Earth and all its inhabitants, who then offered their energy to create the spirit bomb. With the spirit bomb formed, Goku launched it at Buu, who unfortunately was able to hold it at bay. Thus, the final Porunga wish was used to restore Goku's energy so he could push the spirit bomb harder at Buu. After the good Buu was separated from Super Buu's body, he reverted to his original form, Kid Buu, leaving good Buu a separate entity. Because he had shown he could be good and because Mr. Satan vouched for him, he was not destroyed. However, he couldn't exactly live a normal life after all that he had done, so the plan was that he would wait in hiding until the Dragon Balls were recharged, the next wish in the timeline being used to erase the world's memories of Majin Buu, save for Goku and friends. That does it for wishes in Dragon Ball Z, save for the resurrection, so now it's time to move on to Dragon Ball Super. In order to do that, we have to take a look at a wish that took place before the series actually started. That wish was made by the Pilaf gang, who somehow managed to gather the Dragon Balls, a goal that they never seemed to give up on. However, where Pilaf originally wanted to rule the world, when he eventually got the Dragon Balls, he instead wished for his youth back, turning himself, Mai, and Shu into children that were around the ages of Goten and Trunks by the time of Dragon Ball Super. After the Buu Saga and a certain sequel series that we won't be discussing, there was no new Dragon Ball media for quite some time outside of HD re-releases and video games. Until Battle of Gods, a movie that was eventually adapted into the events of the first saga of Dragon Ball Super. In both the movie and the saga, the Dragon Balls were used by Beerus and Goku to learn more about Super Saiyan God, a form that Beerus dreamt about and woke up wanting to fight. This was the first wish to be granted in Dragon Ball Super, the wish for information about Super Saiyan God that was eventually used to turn Goku into one. Strangely enough, this was the only wish that was granted, despite Shenron being capable of more, though his Spear of Lord Beerus probably has to do with his quick disappearance. Like King Kai's planet and the Pilaf gang being turned into kids, there was yet another off-screen wish that we know to have happened. We are, of course, talking about the separation of Kibito and Supreme Kai Shin, who were permanently fused together via the Potara earrings, which they were unaware would result in a permanent fusion. Though they remained as Kibito Kai for quite some time, they eventually wanted to separate back into their original selves. So, while they were seen as Kibito Kai in the Beerus Saga, they were separated in later sagas, using a Namekian Dragon Ball wish to do so. We learned that this was the case from the two characters themselves, who revealed that they asked Porunga to split them apart into their original bodies. Wishing for their youth back wasn't the only time that the Pilaf gang managed to use the Dragon Balls. They also had the opportunity to get some bonus wishes during the Golden Frieza Saga. In the saga, they helped Sorbet summon Shenron so he could wish for Frieza to be resurrected. After the revival was complete, Sorbet learned he had 2 more wishes from Shenron, wishes that the Pilaf gang were quick to steal from under his nose. Shu used one of the wishes for a measly 1 million zeni, and Mai used the last wish for the world's best ice cream, which Shenron provided. Great wishes, guys. Just some real strong choices there. Speaking of wasted wishes, there was another major magical misfire in Dragon Ball Super that goes down as one of the funniest wishes in the entire series. The wish in question came when Bulma got the idea to ask Shenron for the location of the final Super Dragon Ball. This would hopefully negate the need to create a Super Dragon radar, but after Vegeta frantically gathered the Dragon Balls by request of a very scary Beerus, this plan turned out to be a bust. The reason for this was that Shenron revealed he wasn't able to locate the Super Dragon Balls, prompting Beerus to call him a useless lizard and use one of his wishes to wish that Shenron would scram, which he quickly did, disappearing per the god's request. Next up, in order to save time in this video, we've consolidated all 3 wishes made by Zamasu as part of his Zero Mortals plan. See, this Supreme Kai in training didn't really care for the mortal inhabitants of the multiverse, thinking them useless, violent savages that only ruined the world they're given. To remedy this, Zamasu planned to destroy all mortals, using the Super Dragon Balls to do so. This started with wishing to switch bodies with Goku, creating the Goku Black persona that terrorized future Trunks' timeline. And speaking of that timeline, the Zamasu of that timeline then used the Super Dragon Balls to become immortal and invincible. Finally, that same Zamasu used the Super Dragon Balls to destroy the Super Dragon Balls, ensuring his plan could not be stopped. Despite all these wishes, however, the Zero Mortals plan ended up failing, as we all know. Though King Kai had managed to have his planet restored by Porunga, the deity had still not been properly revived after Cell's self-destruction ended his life. Sure, it doesn't really make much of a difference since he's in Otherworld, but King Kai made it clear to Goku that he wanted to be revived. And thus, Goku went about gathering the Dragon Balls to revive King Kai. However, he wasn't the only person who wanted to use the 2 wishes Shenron had left, after granting them the information needed to summon a Super Saiyan God in the Buu Saga. Everyone from Bulma to Android 18 and the Pilaf gang wanted to use the wishes. One of these 2 wishes went to curing Pan of her fever, which Gohan was unable to heal with medicine due to her Saiyan blood. Unfortunately, the other leftover wish went unused, since Shenron lost his power by staying around too long. For those wondering why there was only 1 wish in Dragon Ball Super Broly, the previous entry likely explains it. Shenron still had 1 wish left over, so only 1 was available without a full recharge. This wish was used in Dragon Ball Super Broly, a very well-received film that continued the franchise via the introduction of Broly into the main canon. In the film, the Dragon Balls were gathered by Bulma, then stolen by Frieza and his men who planned to give the wish to their leader. While Frieza wanted to use the Dragon Balls to make himself just a little bit taller, the wish was taken by Chile to save Broly from his fight with Gogeta. Where Goku and Vegeta struggled to fight Broly, their fusion was able to completely dominate the legendary Super Saiyan, putting him in so much danger that Chile wished for him to be transported back to planet Vampa for his own safety. The most recent set of wishes in the timeline of Dragon Ball comes from the latest saga unfolding exclusively in the Dragon Ball Super Manga, the Galactic Patrol Prisoner Saga. This story arc depicts the escape of Moro, a powerful wizard who was the prisoner of the Galactic Patrol breaking free. During this saga, Moro's minion Cranberry, a defected member of the Frieza Force, helps to complete the villain's plans through the use of the Namekian Dragon Balls. After summoning Porunga, 3 wishes are granted. The first wish is to heal Cranberry's wounds that he sustained prior to getting the Dragon Balls. The second is for Moro's magic powers to be restored, bringing him back to his former glory. The final wish is made by Moro, who asks for all the other prisoners of the Galactic Patrol to be freed, creating chaos across the universe. See those? Those are how you use the Dragon Balls, baby. Moro and Cranberry know how to get things done. With every non-resurrection wish out of the way, let's look at every single-person revival in the series. The first single revival in the franchise was the resurrection of Upa's father, Bora, who died at the hands of mercenary Tao. Next was Goku after he died in the Saiyan Saga. After this, Krillin was brought back to life after being killed by Frieza, the wish prior to his resurrection being used to transport his soul to the check-in gate of Earth in Otherworld. Following Krillin was Yamcha, Tien, and Chaozu waiting until the Namekian Dragon Balls recharged to get their own revivals, which were the last single-person resurrections of Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball Super had 2 more single revivals in the form of Frieza, who was brought back by Sorbet, eventually killing Piccolo on Earth, who was brought back with the latest instance of a single-person revival wish in the series, no other instance occurring since. By a landslide, the most common type of wish in Dragon Ball is mass resurrections, i.e. 2 or more people being brought back at once. The list of mass revivals in Dragon Ball starts with the victims of King Piccolo and his sons being brought back to life. Moving on to Dragon Ball Z, the first mass revival was those killed by Frieza and his henchmen. Following this, all those killed by the androids and Cell are brought back to life at the end of the Cell Saga. In the Buu Saga, all those killed by Vegeta and Buu on the day of the World Martial Arts Tournament are brought back, being brought back along with the destroyed Earth by 2 later wishes. In Dragon Ball Super, there were 2 more mass revivals, Universe 6's Earth and, spoiler alert, all the universes erased in the Tournament of Power. So, there you have it. All the wishes in Dragon Ball. If there's one wish that we love the most, it has to be when Beerus wished for Shenron to go away, since it's just so dang savage. Which was your favorite? What about your least favorite? Let us know down in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to CBR for more Dragon Ball videos. Thanks for watching.